I love lost media, and if you're chronically online like me, you probably came across it. I'm assuming you all know what lost media is. For those who don't, let me give a brief definition. Lost media is any form of media that no longer exists. So this can range anywhere from lost movies, shows, video games, music, etc. While there have been cases of lost media resurfacing here and there are times when something lost will probably never see the light of day, no matter how hard we look. Warner Brothers. So let's talk about that. Here are some interesting lost movies and TV shows that will never air. And pause. Now, before I go any further, I need to tell you how this video will be structured. First, I'm going to talk about lost movies, starting with the tamest one on the list, and as we go down, things are going to get dark. After that, I'm going to talk about lost TV shows. Same rules as before, okay? Now, let's get started. Big Bug Man. This animated film follows a candy factory employee played by Brendan Fraser who gains superpowers from a bug bite and becomes the hero Big Bug Man. But his newfound fame soon leads him down a path of greed and corruption. This movie is interesting because it was Marlon Brando's last performance before his death. Brando was given the role of playing the evil CEO of the candy factory, but he turned it down and chose to play another character, Mrs. Sour, the elderly but also evil matriarch of the factory. The film crew had to record Brando's lines at his house due to his declining health, but when they arrived, they saw Brando wearing makeup, a blonde wig, a dress, white gloves, and jewelry. He wanted to play in character, and according to his agent and manager, it was always his dream to play a woman in an animated movie. His character only had 3 lines, so recording only took a day. Despite his age and health, Brando was full of energy on set, and according to the film's co-director, quote, he didn't miss a beat, and it was the most fun he had since filming Julius Caesar. Brando would pass away 3 weeks later. The movie was scheduled to come out in spring 2006, but it was then delayed to 2007, then 2008, and after that, nothing. Some storyboards and a recording of Brando voicing Mrs. Sour did leak online, but other than that, no one's heard anything about the movie.
He gave me all of Judy's records, saying pills too. I'm somewhere over the rainbow right now.
Empires of the Deep. This fantasy epic was the brainchild of John Jiang, a Chinese real estate mogul and cinephile. This was supposed to be the first movie in a trilogy, and Jiang hoped that its success could spawn an animated series, video games, and even a theme park. Jiang fully funded the movie and wrote the script. However, his script was far from perfect, as it was incoherent and full of plot holes. The movie is about Atlas and Trajan, 2 friends who set out on an adventure to defeat the evil demon sage and bring peace to the 8 mermaid kingdoms after his army kidnaps Atlas's father and the Temple of Poseidon. Before production began, Jiang hired Randall Frakes, a script consultant and longtime friend of James Cameron, to rewrite the script, and he was in talks of getting Irvin Kershner to direct. For those of you who don't know, Irvin Kershner was a filmmaker known for directing films like Never Say Never Again, RoboCop 2, and a little indie movie called Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back. However, Jiang hated the changes Frakes and Randall suggested, so they ended up leaving. Jiang then went to French filmmaker Pitoff, that's not his real name, he calls himself that, and offered him the role of director and $400,000 upfront. Pitoff gladly took it, but after reading the script, he made changes to it, which, you guessed it, pissed off Jiang. So he left. Eventually, Jonathan Lawrence, an indie filmmaker and Spielberg stan, became the director, but he wouldn't be the last. The filming for Empires was a complete disaster. Lawrence, unhappy with the script, would rewrite scenes during filming. There were no safety precautions on set, which would be disastrous for the stunt crew. The fish costumes were so cheap and had to be glued on, which resulted in actors getting irritated skin. Actors and crew members were either paid late or not paid at all. The filming locations were either under bad weather or unsafe to film. There was a language barrier between the English-speaking and Chinese-speaking crew. Like, for example, this one time, Lawrence joked about building a wall on the beach to hide a resort from the camera's view. The next day, he found a wall being built on the beach. If someone wanted to leave, however, the production team would use scare tactics to keep them, such as actress Irina Violet. Tired of all the chaos happening on set, she just wanted to leave, but the production team took her passport and demanded she repay her salary if she wanted it back. Luckily, Lawrence helped her and her boyfriend escape without anyone noticing. There was also a group of Russian extras who threatened to walk out if they weren't given their overdue pay, so the production team called the police to check their visas. And where was Jeong in all this? You know, the guy responsible for this movie. Well, he rarely came on set, and when he did, he would give contradictory and unrealistic directions to the actors. What's even more bizarre is that he even had assistants spy and report on Lawrence's every move. After Lawrence left, director Michael French came in. French was what the movie needed, because his laid-back approach and well-liked personality improved the mood on set. He decided to cut out large chunks of dialogue which saved time, and directed the movie as a comedy, because 1, he had no idea how to envision the movie since he was forbidden from talking to Lawrence, and 2, he found the script so cheesy. And whenever Jeong came on set, French would shoot the scenes the way Jeong wanted them, and then ditch and reshot them once he left. Everything was going well, but after 2 months, French had to leave because he had a work commitment in Canada. Next came their third and final director, Scott Miller, who was a documentarian. He was enthusiastic about taking the role, and he wanted to reshoot the entire movie into an epic love story. But Jeong refused, but he would complete filming though. In total, 10 screenwriters, 40 drafts, 3 directors, and a budget of $130 million had been used on Empires. In 2012, the studio had released a trailer promising a 2013 release, but nothing happened. The trailer garnered ridicule for how bad it looked, and I can agree. I think this is the only time someone can say the CGI looks like PS2 graphics. Because of this, reshoots had to be done. The only problem was that the budget ran out and Jeong didn't want to spend any more of his money. So the movie was placed on a Chinese crowdfunding website along with a new and slightly improved trailer. And I'm using slightly really kindly here. But the campaign failed to meet its goal. So what happened to this movie? Well, Jeong is still looking for investors, and he is still confident that his movie will become a smash hit. Okay. Bill Cosby, 77. I think we all know why this is lost. Anyways, this Netflix comedy special was filmed on Cosby's 77th birthday, hence the title. According to Netflix, this special was going to feature Cosby sharing his quote, wisdom and hilarious insights about childhood, first loves, and parenthood. The special was going to be released on November 28th, 2014, but on November 18th, Netflix announced it will be delaying the special due to the growing number of essay allegations made against Cosby. In 2015, Netflix CCO Ted Sarandos announced the special was officially cancelled and he had no plans of releasing it. The Day the Clown Cried. The Day the Clown Cried is an unfinished film starring and directed by Jerry Lewis. Now you're probably wondering, who's Jerry Lewis? Well, don't worry my loyal audience, let me explain. Is he alright? Jerry Lewis was an actor and comedian well known for his slapstick comedy. Since the beginning of his career, he was known as the guy who would make funny faces, speak in weird voices, and move around so zany. So to see him tackle a sensitive subject like the Holocaust just sounded absurd. And it was. Even Lewis was reluctant at first, but he accepted it because he thought it would be groundbreaking, especially in a time when the Holocaust was a topic the public barely talked about. So what could go wrong? Well, number one was the script. The script was written by Joan O'Brien and Charles Denton, and it was intended to be a drama. However, Lewis rewrote it into a tragic comedy, and it was nothing like the original. His version is about a washed-up circus clown named Helmut Durk. After losing his job, Durk gets drunk and mocks Hitler in front of Gestapo and SS officers, which results in him getting thrown into a concentration camp. After putting his performing skills to use, he becomes a hit among the Jewish children, but the guards see another use for him. They order Durk to guide the children, Pied Piper style, into the gas chambers. Durk begs to be with the children one last time, so he's allowed to go with them. The movie ends with Durk holding a little girl's hand as they enter the gas chambers. He prays for a miracle to happen, but nothing comes. Number 2, money. Producer Nat Waxberger promised Lewis he would financially back the film entirely, but the budget ran out before shooting even finished. Even promised to give more money, but nothing happened. This resulted in Lewis paying around $2 million out of pocket for the rest of production. Number 3, the script rights.
Watch, Bridget.
Didn't secure the rights to the script, meaning they couldn't release the film without O'Brien's consent. She watched a rough cut of the film but hated it, calling it a disaster. One would think this is where the story ends, but nope, because even more problems arose. After shooting, Lewis called out
Watchburger
by saying he failed on his end as a producer, and
Watchburger
retaliated by threatening to sue Lewis for breaking his contract and take the film for himself. Luckily, the two came to an agreement.
Watchburger
Would take the film negatives and Lewis would take the rough cut. Since it was announced, The Day the Clown Cried became the stuff of legend, and people have asked Lewis on many occasions if he would release it. Each time he would answer very negatively. Like this one time in 2001, Lewis was asked if he would release the film. He replied, quote, "None of your goddamn business." That same year, he said, "As far as discussing the movie, forget it. You won't see any of it. Forget it." It appeared that Lewis never wanted to release the film, not because of O'Brien, but because he was ashamed of what he created.
Are we going to ever gonna get to see The Day the Clown Cried?
No. No. You want to know why? Simply because it's very easy to sit in front of an audience and expound on your feelings. It's another thing to have to deal with those feelings. And in terms of that film, I was embarrassed. I was ashamed of the work, and I was grateful that I had the power to contain it all and never let anybody see it. It was bad, bad, bad. It could have been wonderful, but I slipped up. I didn't quite get it, and I didn't quite have enough sense to find out why I'm doing it, and maybe there would be an answer. It'll never be seen. Sorry. I'll tell you how it ends.
Despite all this, few people have claimed to have seen it, and they all agree on one thing: it's bad. Most notably was Harry Shearer, who went on to say, "With most of these kinds of things, you find that the anticipation or the concept is better than the thing itself. But seeing this film was really awe-inspiring, and that you are rarely in the presence of a perfect object. This was a perfect object. This movie is so drastically wrong, its pathos and its comedy are so wildly misplaced, that you could not, in your fantasy of what it might be, improve on what it really is. Oh my god, that's all you can say." In 2012, a Flemish network called VRT released some behind-the-scenes footage on their cultural website, cobra.be. In 2016, the German channel ARD aired a documentary called Der Clown. The documentary was about the making of this movie, and it featured 31 minutes of original footage, restaged scenes, and an interview with Lewis about his work after 43 years. Someone was nice enough to upload the original footage on YouTube and Vimeo. Sadly, both videos were taken down. The documentary was also screened at theaters and sold on DVDs. Unfortunately, I couldn't find any copies online. Now, I need to be honest with you all. This film won't be lost media for long. Please don't get mad at me, because here's where things get interesting. Oh hey, he's still alive. Shortly before his death, Lewis submitted his rough cut to the Library of Congress and told them not to release it until June 2024. The LOC plans to screen the film at their Audiovisual Conservation Campus in Culpeper, Virginia, although it may lead to legal issues with O'Brien's estate. I know I went against the video's title and included a film that isn't necessarily lost, but I still found it interesting to include. And by the time I found this out, I had already spent days researching and writing this entry, and I didn't want this work to go to waste. And also I wanted this video to include an even number of entries. So with that out of the way, I'm curious, will any of you watch this movie when it's out? Our Little Genius. In this show, child prodigies will be given 10 questions pertaining to their specialty. Each question would get more difficult than the last, but it would be worth more money. It was basically Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, except the contestants' parents would decide if their child could go on to the next round, and Ivy League professors as well as doctors and scientists could give tips if the contestants were struggling. On January 7, 2010, just 6 days before airing, the show's creator, Mark Burnett, requested Fox to postpone the premiere due to allegations that staff members were giving answers to contestants. Fox obliged and pulled the series from airing. Some instances of cheating include a staff member giving a contestant the answers to 4 questions, another contestant being told the British naming system for musical notes, and a father being told that his son should know Harry Seeley in 1888, which ended up being the answers to one of the paleontology questions. After its cancellation, it was reported that the FCC began an investigation on the show. This was the first time the FCC had investigated a game show since the 1950s, and since then, no information has come out. That wasn't until last year when the Arizona Republic released an article conducting their own investigation on the FCC, and concluded the investigation didn't happen, probably because the show didn't air. The only footage from the show comes from a promo. Welcome to the neighborhood. In this show, 7 families would compete in challenges, interviews, and social events while seeking the approval of 3 neighbors. These same neighbors would eliminate 1 family each week, with the last standing family winning a brand new house at the Circle C Ranch in Austin, Texas. The only problem was that these neighbors were conservative white middle-class Christians, and the families competing came from diverse backgrounds. You had the Crenshaws, a religious African American family, the Eckharts, a white and Native American family that practices Wicca, the Gonzalezes, a Hispanic family, the Lees, a Korean family, the Morgans, a white family with a sex-working mother, the Sheets, a white family with heavily tattooed Republican parents, and the Wrights, a gay white couple with an adopted African American son. From the start, these families were met with prejudice from the neighbors, but as the show went on, they became more accepted, and by the end, the Wrights won the house. The National Fair Housing Alliance and the Family Research Council criticized the show, claiming it violated anti-discrimination housing laws and it could make conservatives come off as biased. GLAAD condemned the show for its portrayal of the Wright family in the first few episodes and called the competition unnecessarily cruel and insensitive. The show was ultimately canceled 10 days before its premiere, with ABC making a statement. Our intention with Welcome to the Neighborhood was to show the transformative process that takes place when people are forced to confront preconceived notions of what makes a good neighbor, and we believe the series delivers exactly that. However, the fact that true change only happens over time made the episodic nature of this series challenging, and given the sensitivity of the subject matter in early episodes, we have decided not to air the series at this time. However, the producers believe the show's cancellation was Disney's idea. You see, Disney owns ABC, and during this time they were getting ready to release their newest movie, The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Audacity of This Bitch, and they needed as much support from Christian groups if they wanted to turn a profit. They were worried that the show's portrayal of evangelicals and gay men might jeopardize the movie, so they cancelled it. Kevin Brockman, a spokesperson for ABC, denied these claims. Only 2 episodes were shown at a private screening for critics, and a copy of the series was given to the New York Times by an advocate. The only footage that's available is the show's opening. Escaping the KKK. Originally called Generation KKK, the series followed peace activists as they try to guide 4 members, each from a prominent clan family, out of the KKK. It was hard finding information on the families, but I did find something on IMDb. For some reason, the page just describes 3 members and 1 family. Anyways, you have an Imperial wizard who hopes to groom his teenage daughter to take his place, an Iraq war veteran and proud member of the KKK determined to raise his 4-year-old son to embrace his views, a young man who sees his close friend and clan member as the father he never had, and a 5th-generation family struggling to keep up their legacy. After the show was announced, A&E was scrutinized for giving a platform to the clan, so they renamed it and said this was nothing more than an educational documentary. The show was scheduled to air on January 10, 2017, but was cancelled 3 weeks before airing. During my research, I found sources saying that the reason why the show was cancelled was because the producers paid the KKK for information, which is a direct violation of the network's policies and practices. However, according to a statement from A&E, the producers paid some participants to facilitate access. The statement doesn't go into detail about who these participants were or how much they were paid, but they do say this: we had previously provided assurances to the public and to our core partners, including the Anti-Defamation League and Color of Change, that no payment was made to hate group members. I hope I don't get in trouble for this. Seriously, dude, I'm gay. Seriously Dude, I'm Gay was a 2-hour special set to air on Fox on June 7, 2004. The premise followed 2 straight men competing over who could be a more convincing gay man in the span of a week. The contestants were each given 3 gay coaches. They had to move in with gay roommates, socialize at gay nightclubs, and even come out to their friends and family. There were even challenges such as swimsuit modeling and going out on blind dates. And that's all I'm going to say about the challenges because they go into some NSFW territory. At the end of the week, a panel of gay men, or as the show calls them, a jury of queers, would judge our contestants and decide who would win the $50,000 cash prize. Damn, all this for $50,000. This special was the result of Fox's decision to capitalize on LGBTQ+ themed shows, and it was quickly met with criticism from GLAAD. Fox was kind enough to give GLAAD an advance copy of the special, but after viewing it, they described it as, quote, an exercise of systematic humiliation. On May 26 of that same year, GLAAD held a meeting with Fox executives in which they voiced their concerns about the special. The next day, Fox announced they were canceling the special due to creative reasons. A GLAAD representative would go on to say that Fox wasn't too upset with the cancellation, as this wasn't the first time they made a show like this. What's even crazier is that in 2005, this show was one of several TV programs cited in a class action lawsuit filed by the Writers Guild of America. According to the lawsuit, Fox and the special's production company, Rocket Science Laboratories, had violated labor laws by having their employees falsify their time cards so they wouldn't be paid overtime. In the end, the 2 parties reached a $2.75 million settlement. There's no footage of this show anywhere, but there is this one picture of Larry Anderson, who was one of the contestants with his 3 coaches from the show. Speaking of Larry, he claimed that being on the special helped him overcome his homophobia and said in The Advocate, which is an LGBTQ+ magazine, quote, I think the show showed that the stereotypes people have aren't true. I realized that there is no way to act gay, and you are just your normal self. That definitely came out of the show. Thank you all so much for watching and sticking right to the end. If I missed out on anything or if there's anything I should improve on, just tell me in the comments below. In our previous video, we just reached 136 views. Thank you so much for that, and thank you for the 13 subscribers. You know, I didn't expect to get those numbers, so thank you all again for that. New videos in the future, and by future I mean like, I don't know, 50 years from now. Yeah, so I should probably get some sleep. It's pretty late right now. Yeah, so see ya.